Greetings, my friend. Welcome to the secret shop.
Hello and welcome to the Secret Shop podcast. I'm your host Cymen, and with me, as always, is Anger. Hi.
Hello, what's popping?
What's poppin'? Not much. And also joining us is Kiwi. Nice to have you.
Happy Moon Day.
Happy Moon Day to you too. It doesn't just come once a month, it's every week. And although this week feels kind of like a deja vu, doesn't it?
Maybe. I thought this was necessary.
It's like I've been in this place before. Because apparently the whole shopping business of last week was not just confusing and ambiguous to us, it was confusing to everyone. Which is why Valve felt the need to actually clarify not just the UI, but the mechanics of the shop, as well as just go into way more detail about it, like actually getting into the nitty-gritty of the numbers and everything. What was your guys' thoughts after last week's podcast? Because the community did have some time to digest what this was all about.
I generally was really positive. I think most of what they added in the last post was really good.
I liked it. I thought it was our weakest episode among us. And I thought that it was just not clear. Like, we didn't have a lot to go off and base things off. It was mostly just speculating and trying to interpret it. And even among friends of mine in the community and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people had misconceptions, including ourselves, which is why, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but they are going into stuff that we specifically were talking about and had our own little misconceptions about. Like, their clarifications almost go like points by points through our last week's episode.
I didn't notice that. Slightly suspicious.
Suspicious.
Or the other point of view is we were just very on point in representing how the general community feels.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, we're pretty amazing. Either Valve is watching us, or we are incredibly intelligent. So
exactly, we are hitting the exact IQ of the rest of the community, I suppose.
Perfect.
Which is certified triple digit.
Triple certified.
9,000 MMR. That's us.
Yeah. So, first of all, let's just dive right into it. About the invest option, which you, Anger, had an issue with last week.
And I wanted it to be more gold. I did not just say that I didn't like the invest word. I also wanted it to be more gold. Just saying.
They changed it special for you. They're like, Anger wants this. We better do what she says.
Yeah. Very much so. Like, a lot of people were confused by the word invest, even though that was really just about flavor, right? Because it's a shop and you're getting money back, so it's kind of like investing, or you're getting your investment back. But people really didn't like it because it's like, well, am I paying into it, or am I just getting money out of it? And now they're just clarifying, either you do your shopping or you earn gold. And that will close the shop, end the shopping phase. That's what your decision was for the shopping phase. You just got some gold. That's it. Either that or you shop, which is all the other mess right here. Okay, one thing that strikes me as odd right away, though, is that they straight up removed the reroll function from compared to last week.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I liked the reroll option. It just having the option, like, you can argue whether or not you would want to reroll and spend 2 gold to do it, but like, I think having the option, there's nothing that hurts it. Like, what's the argument against it?
What's the argument for it? Do you think it was really necessary?
Well, it lessens the RNG. Like, if you get 3 bad choices, you can, if you have a lot of gold, you can still reroll to get your corn or whatever.
I think that having the ability to reroll if you had bad options is nice, but it's also costing you gold. Instead, it's been changed by having items underneath, whereas before, if you bought an item, it would be empty underneath, and so you would be forced to reroll. Just removing reroll altogether simplifies that a bit, I think. Another part of the issue, maybe not a good reason for an issue, but people immediately were like, oh, we're Underlords 2 now. If that bothers people, then why not remove it? Like,
Right.
I think it's a silly thing to be upset about, but also if people feel upset by that, let's just adjust it. I like it better that there isn't blank spots under the items. And so I think over time, it's a better way of doing it.
Why not both, though? Both having items underneath and the reroll option.
Yeah, maybe we end up playing it and they're like, okay, we're going to bring reroll back because it seems like it's necessary.
You know what? Yeah, that is my prediction for the first week of beta. Seriously. Like, is the very first day, people are gonna post, bring back the reroll option. I keep getting shit rolls in the shop. I would rather spend some gold and improve that. Thank you very much. I don't want to spend 10 gold on an item just to get a single reroll. I want to reroll the whole bunch. Where is it, Valve? Why did you listen to Reddit?
If you reroll and you get bad items on the second roll, then it's going to feel really bad. That shouldn't be likely based on how you build your deck, but keep in mind also that these items are all 10 gold or more, and you're seeing three item slots every time. If you're an econ deck, then you can afford to buy through your shop to reach the items you need. And if you're not an econ deck, then having 3 options when you're buying probably 1 is maybe sufficient. And worst case scenario, you earn instead, or you upgrade your shop on that turn instead. And so you have not just the 3 items to look at, but you have 3 options total as well. And so I think the chances of there being 3 items you're not interested in and you not being interested in earning or upgrading is unlikely.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the person who makes these, what do you even call it, the sketch or the infographic or whatever? They're so nice and easy for feeble-minded people like me to comprehend. Yeah. I just thank you so much, because I thought the last time I thought it was a little bit difficult at first to comprehend, like just looking at the shop and like got overwhelmed. But here it's just so easy to quickly understand exactly what they want it to be like.
Exactly.
They also shouted out the person and said from one of our UI artists. They have multiple UI artists.
Oh.
And just one of the things they clarify also is that this really is all about the shop as is, like the general shop. Because in the last UI preview they gave us, they called it the secret shop, which was previously just a single slot within the shop. So it caused a bit of confusion, which we had on the podcast as well. I believe...
I definitely contributed to that.
Yeah, I believe you thought that, at least for the item deck, there would be a separate system because this is just the secret shop, not the general shop.
I just speculated that that was one option to interpret the words from.
But you're not the only one.
So what do you think of that? The whole thing about mixing in your item deck with the random items?
That is what we're getting to right now. Because something that a lot of people have realized since last week, have made videos about, like DMZ Da. Is that how you pronounce it?
Who knows?
I just call him DMZ.
The video that DMZ made that clarified things for everyone. Because there isn't like a separation at all from your item deck anymore. Instead, you get these 3 slots which are completely equal and the exact same in terms of mechanics, where it is restricted by what level your shop is, and you're being offered, for example, at the beginning, tier 1 items. And the tier 1 items from your item deck are being mixed in with this random selection of tier 1 items, which raises the probability of your item deck's choices being offered. Is that fair to say, Kiwi?
It makes sense to me. You think it increases the chance of your items showing up?
Well, I'm saying because let's say the game randomly mixes in like 1 cloak and a bunch of swords, and you have, let's say, 2 cloaks in your deck. Now you have mixed in 2 additional cloaks into this selection, and now the chance of getting a cloak, which is part of your item deck, is higher, because you mixed in more of those items within that tier into the pool of options that it's going to show you.
The options are about even. There's the numbers they gave us was 11 currently, and we're going to be mixing in 10 of our own. So you've got about a 50-50, and with there being 3 slots for this, you have more chance of getting your items than before off of a specific slot. And that's why I really like that they put fresh items underneath it, because it would have felt bad for some decks buying through them and having to use the gold to reroll. The other thing they did that I found really interesting is if you buy out all of the items of the tier available, they put in random items. So there will always be infinite items you can buy. Your shop will never run out.
But the random item will always be just a tier 1 item, though. If the tier is bought out.
It will always be tier 1?
Yeah, it says in the very last line of the populating the shop, it says if you've already bought all those cards, you will see a random tier 1 card instead.
Right, okay. So the tier 1 items having lots of utility can be really interesting, because if you're a deck that's going to have more gold than your item list once you've bought through it, buying spare force staves and stuff like that, staves can be interesting.
Wait, hold up. So there's 4 tier 1, 3 tier 2, 2 tier 3, 1 tier 4, and 1 tier 5. Doesn't that add up to 11?
Yes.
Didn't they say 10?
No, they said 10 of your items.
Oh, okay.
Your item deck is 10. They put in 11 currently. Numbers are subject to change.
10 from your item deck and 11 randomly added to the shop.
You can't do that, Valve. I'm sorry. If you're actually watching this, you can't do that. You can't have 10 of your own cards and then 11 random cards. I'm sorry. I'm like, this is another imp situation. I'm just not gonna let that slide.
Maybe you can still add extra item cards so you can have 11-11.
But like with all the 10, 20, 30 costs and everything, clearly they're going full metric in 10s and 5s. And then they just throw in 11 out of nowhere.
It's not 11. The number isn't relevant. They're trying to scale how many of each one you have based on the importance of them. Like, you don't want to have 0 tier 5 items in there just to make it perfectly 10. Like, that's not...
They could have 3 tier 1.
The numbers aren't really relevant.
3 tier 1.
I don't think the numbers are relevant.
It would still be symmetrical, because then it would be 3, 3, 2, 1, 1. That would even be more symmetrical.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'm sorry, but these things bother me.
It'll be interesting to see if the shop is smart enough to put items in based on what you have in. So say you put 4 tier 1 cloaks in your list. Would they put more cloaks in, or will they adjust it to not have? It'll be interesting to see if what you put in the list can impact the randomness of the others. I expect not, but it's possible.
I don't think so, because they're giving us like the exact numbers of how many items the shop is going to add to which tier. I don't think there's any like intelligent adaptation at all. It's always going to be 4 random items at tier 1 and 1 at tier 5, etc.
Yeah, I think it's going to be random too. But it is interesting to think about, like, if they could have an AI like that or something, or just that checks if your tier 5 item is a health item, you're more likely to get, or if you have tier 5 items and it's a health item or tech item, is the one you get randomly going to be something different from that? I think that's a really good idea.
I don't know, because as soon as you give the wheel to an AI, there's always going to be some advantages and disadvantages given to certain players. Because the AI is gonna try to understand your item deck and adapt, and then it's just gonna put in some nonsense that you don't want there anyways, or it's going to overpopulate it with stuff that you already have in your item deck, giving you an easier time over the other player, etc. There would be too much manipulation and too many like bugs in the system, by which I mean not literal bugs, but like you would be at the mercy of the algorithm, hopefully reading what you're trying to do and like altering the items offered to you in a way that you want. But like in the end, this is like supposed to be like Two-Face, right? The only true equalizer is randomness. So they just give you the exact same amount of random cards for every tier. The exact same amount. It's always going to be 4 random cards in tier 1, 3 in tier 2, etc. But the cards themselves are going to be random.
I wasn't trying to make it that complicated. I was more just getting at if it will be smart about not putting more than 5 armor or 5 health or 5 weapons in a list total. Like if it will look at what the total numbers are and adjust them that way. Or even duplicates of stuff. If you have items, then can it still make those items, sort of thing. Like I'm wondering if it's truly random or not, and if that will be adjusted.
I really don't think so, because you could game the system.
What did you prefer, Kiwi?
So I think the baseline is that it would always be random, but if you put a certain number of, like, I think it shouldn't adjust to more than 5 of any one. So if you put a bunch of cloaks in, maybe it would heavier way put in weapons or something. But maybe not. Currently it's just going to be random, but I'm hoping that there are some ways that it adjusts, because it would suck if you have you have 3 cloaks in your list and you randomly get all cloaks. Like maybe it'll be random and they'll give you 3 of each minimum or something, you know. Maybe it'll spread it out a little or balance it a little bit. You can have randomness while still pulling from different item types.
Now, the randomness, however, only happens at the very beginning of the game, basically. That's when the shop distributes these random items into the item pool. But from then on, you can actually check your deck tracker, and it's going to show you exactly what's in the pool.
This is wonderful, because you can play around the randomness that you're given, rather than just being excited when a helm shows up in your shop and holding it. You can plan your entire game strategy from the moment that the randomness has occurred, and so then it's not negatively impacting you. It's like, even though random 2 color is a terrible game mode, if you can when you can see your whole list, it makes it somewhat competitive, and you can make good decisions based on the tools you're given. This is a less extreme version of that in items, and I really, really like it.
Hands down, this is my favorite addition to the shop. Just being able to plan around things and actually play for these items that you know are in the pool is fantastic.
And when you've bought out so much of it, you're gonna fairly consistently see the items you want, or some of them.
Now, do you guys think that there's going to be any kind of blacklist feature?
No, what do you mean?
That was more of a thought that people had when the reroll feature was still in, but now that it isn't in there anymore, and it basically gives you another item immediately when you purchase an item, that's probably not going to be the case anymore. Well, it may still be in there. What I mean is that, let's say it's offering you a cloak, and you purchase that cloak, and then it gives you a new item from underneath the cloak. Do you think that there's going to be any kind of blacklist feature that if there are more cloaks in the pool, is it going to show you another cloak under the cloak?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it going to try and show you something different from within the pool?
Sometimes you want 2 cloaks, so I don't think there's a reason for it not to be that way.
I think the blacklisting was only relevant to rerolling, because you only reroll when you want none of the items at that time.
Oh, yeah.
By buying it, then it's like every item that, even if it's the same item, it's still a different, unique in the shop.
Well, they did add it in Underlords, though, so why shouldn't it be that way in Artifacts with the reroll?
We don't have rerolls.
Yeah,
we don't have.
Yeah, but
rerolls,
if they ever implement it again, which I think is highly likely.
If they have rerolls, I expect there will be blacklisting, and you won't be able to get that specific one. So say you have 2 cloaks in your, well, it might be specific to the item, or it might be specific to the unique item. As in, if you have 2 cloaks, you won't be able to get the one you saw, but maybe you could get the other one versus all of them. It depends. There's different ways to implement that, but not really relevant currently.
What do you guys think of this new version of the shop? Like, do you think that this lost anything of worth from the previous iteration of the shop, or is this just a straight upgrade to you?
I think it's strictly better.
Yeah.
In every way.
Agree.
Right. I'm trying to think a little bit more critically, but honestly, I'm loving everything that's here. Like, especially now that we actually have the numbers. And we know that there's like almost a 50-50 chance for every slot to be offered an item from your item deck. And you still know what's coming by looking at the deck tracker. That was a Freudian slip if I've ever heard one.
My criticism would have been having empty slots underneath, because before you can buy out your whole shop and now it costs gold to buy many items. But they address that.
The only thing I would add is double dipping with both reroll and cards underneath, and reducing the random cards to 10 instead of 11. That's my only criticism.
Just evening things out.
The numbers have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Have to be perfect.
I'm actually serious about that. Changes from 11 to 10. I'm not kidding.
Let's take a look at the item rework. There's one small detail that they mention in the preamble about the item reworks, which I find interesting because it actually hints at the way that items or cards in general are unlocked. Because the rarity symbol is now no longer connected to like actual rarity within packs, at least not here. Like they're saying that the colors of the former rarity symbol are actually connected to at which point you unlock them.
I really like that. It was a very subtle way of sneaking that in there. And also, this blog post wasn't that long, and they addressed every aspect of detail that people were trying to figure out or had noticed. Like, they're not putting teasers into here. They're just taking the time to explain the game to us.
Yeah.
And that is fantastic. I really wonder about this unlocking feature, because this seems to be suggesting that there's at least some linearity to it. Maybe like a battle pass or something. And because they're saying people will start with cards of gray rarity and green, I believe, and then they're going to work their way up. And the items that are represented here, I see, are like gray, red or purple, and green. So let's get into it. Face boots. Anger, would you like to read to the audience how face boots have changed and what they do?
Face Boots is now a 10 cost item that gives 3 health and has an active ability that has 2 rounds cooldown, cost 1 mana, which makes you able to swap this hero to another random position. And it doesn't say swap with another unit. So you can, if you only have 1 unit in this lane, I assume it means you can swap it to any of the 5 positions.
It doesn't say random though.
No. You can choose whichever position,
right.
But you can choose of either of the 5 positions, regardless of if there's units there or not. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct.
Because I believe you set to a random position at first.
Oh, did I? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, any thoughts about those? Now that we have the freedom of actually swapping to an empty spot. I mean, not swapping anything, are you?
Yeah, that's true. They can't call it swapping then.
Oh man. Now
Swap
they have to
or swap/move.
Yeah.
Move or swap. Yeah. That seems that it makes them slightly better, although everything's better.
Yeah.
They're still essentially the same. They look like they're just showing us the most basic of items, I guess.
They're basically saying that the gray items are going to be those that are very straightforward to play with. And the ones of like higher colors are those that require more and more thought and finesse, as they call it.
I like that. Was a nice way of putting it.
Which brings us to the Claszureme Hourglass. Would you like to get into it, Kiwi?
No, I want Nyctasha's.
Okay, I will talk about the Claszureme Hourglass then. It costs 1 mana to play. It costs 10 gold. It gives you 3 health. And now, instead of what it did before, which is lock every single draw you get with 1 lock, it now locks any extra cards that your opponent draws each round by 2. And that's only the extra draws. So not your usual beginning of round draws. I think this is way better. This is like this is probably
Do you really think so?
This is like probably my most hated item. It was so annoying to play around because like it just locks you out of your draws and delays everything by a round. It would like not just break your neck, it would like make you listen to your neck breaking because you get your draws and you're like, wow, it would be this would really save my game right now if I were able to use it, but I'm not.
I was so surprised to see that this card had the most requests for change.
Yeah.
I definitely can understand it being suffocating, but the item was also expensive. Like, even the econ list with Vestures and 3 of these where you copy them as well and you put 5 lock on everything. Like, yes, that list was suffocating, but it was still a terrible list and was a meme more than anything, and so seeing it brought me more joy than hatred. However, this changes it, instead of just being a good card and suffocating, to be specifically targeting a certain archetype, being a counter to an archetype, and I like that. And with it being a tier 1 item, then it's fine. It's just a different cloak, but you use it situationally.
I think this looks shit, honestly. Like, this looks crap. I don't think I would ever play this. Just, it's too situational to lock the extra cards your opponent draws. I don't know. Like, it could be good against, like, blue or something, if blue stays the same with, like, lots of card draw. But at the same time, I would rather get an item that actually does something, because that's already the problem with lock. Yeah, it's annoying. You lock your opponent, but you still lose, because it doesn't actually do anything.
I think that's precisely the point, is that the item is no longer annoying. It's only there to target blue. Well, blue in the case that we know. And otherwise, it's just a subpar cloak.
But it's so crap, though, because even with blue, when you play all your card draw cards, you're still doing that pretty early, so you can use the cards later. So this is still crap. This is just shit. Nobody's ever going to play this card.
A lot of the reason you play lock against blue is so that they can't draw all their answers on the Claszureme turn, where they would use an Arcane Assault or multicast a Foresight and then draw through their whole deck and find all the pieces they need.
Yeah, that's true.
To combo on the final turn. Early draws aren't supposed to be affected. It's more for later and getting all the pieces of their combo. So it's still going to serve the same purpose, but it's no longer 3 times the cost of the base cloak. It's just a different form of a base cloak that you use situationally. I agree with you, it looks terrible. You're unlikely to put that in your list on purpose unless the meta is very draw oriented at that time. It's something that's going to show up in your secret shop, and you're like, you're playing against blue and this shows up and you're like, hell yeah, and then you equip it on turn 8. Well, the equivalent of turn 8. You equip it right before their Claszureme turn, and then you're super annoying on that turn and they can't combo you 2 turns later.
Yeah, the greatest strength of this item is being tier 1. Because that means you don't necessarily have to put it into your item deck. You can just trust the shop to mix that into your first tier, because that's the tier where you get the most random items from tier 1. 4 random items. So the chance is getting, we don't know how many tier 1 items there are in the entire game, but still, like, this is probably fairly likely to get mixed into your item deck. So that's where you get it. Situational, but you'll be grateful when you get it.
Maybe you're playing an econ deck and you don't get your econ cards, and so you never upgrade your shop, and all of your items that you put in your deck are all higher tier. So your shop stays level 1 or 2. You buy out all the items in there, and then puts in more random tier 1 items, and you're later on in the game, and it gives you Claszureme. Tier 1 items are strong for that purpose too. I think the most specific ones for a certain purpose are going to be tier 1.
Which brings us to the highest tier piece of equipment that we have seen from Artifact 2.0 thus far, which is Nyctasha's Guard. Kiwi, go ahead, this is yours.
This is the first tier 5 item we've seen. It's
I believe
got the
so.
fancy, shiny, golden background. Very pretty. Nyctasha's Guard, 1 armor, active 1 mana, 1 turn cooldown. Reduce adjacent enemies to 1 health. They are stunned, rooted, and feeble. This is a blue rarity card. Blue is going to be rarer than, or like, what was the word they used? More complex?
Yeah, exactly. This is going to require a little more finesse. Big IQ, basically, to use.
Feeble? What was feeble again? It's trample, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite of trample, basically. It reduces the enemy's health to 1, and all the other damage that are being hit with is going to splash over to the tower.
They're also stunned and held in place with root. I don't know why they would need rooted and stunned, because if they're able to be unstunned, are they not able to be unrooted? Like, does Jasper Daggers not remove root?
I think the idea is that there are still cards which can move units or heroes without them actively doing it. For example, Intimidation.
Or even Cunning Plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I like this. It still feels very similar to current Nyctasha's. So Nyctasha's is an interesting item that we very rarely see in Artifact.
Yeah.
I think it's really strong, but it's never something you really put in your list. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 lists ever with it actively in there. It's really strong late game. It's like a better roar because you move heroes out of your lane. And if people get it from a golden ticket and they've won a lane, the game is almost unwinnable. So this is still doing essentially the same thing. You're ruining the 3 heroes or creeps in front of you. You're still pushing tower damage as it would have before, but you're not moving 3 bodies to a different lane that your opponent can't interact with. This way, if your opponent if they have Jaspers, they can play around it, or if the bodies that aren't rooted, stunned, enfeebled, if they aren't dying, they're still 1 health. You still have to do that 1 damage to them. And so the item is still having essentially the same effect, but there's room to play around it, and so it's a lot less frustrating for your opponent. There's no item I hate playing against more than a late game Nyctasha's. And this is still equally strong, but some room to interact with.
What I like is that it still has a similar effect in a way, because the old Nyctasha's guard was basically freeing the way for attack to the tower. And instead, this leaves those units there, but it feebles them and makes them, useless. And all of that damage just splashes over to the tower instead. But still, there's still ways to play around it. I like that very much.
Now you'd have to heal those bodies instead of placing a new creep there.
Yeah,
or something.
Or purging off those effects. Very nice. What do you think, Anger? Do you prefer this version?
Yeah, I think so. Like, this is something that I would maybe actually consider putting in a deck. I don't know.
Did you not consider the old Nyctasha's guard ever?
I don't know. Maybe it is too situational, but I don't know. With the feeble, I don't know. No, I think this is still too situational.
You don't have to put it in your deck, though. It's in your deck if you like it or not. Merry Christmas. Here's your Nyctasha's card, tier 5.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, considering them describing 30 gold items as something that's typically like a game finisher or whatever, this doesn't seem that strong. I don't know. I like the fact that it stuns everything in front of you every round, since it's only 1 round cooldown. But I don't know, for a 30 round item, I think I would prefer a horn to this.
Really? Interesting. Like, if you get that and you get like 3 heroes basically almost directly hitting the tower, this can very easily be a game finisher.
Yeah, think about if you each have taken a lane and you're playing 4 vs 4. Is it 1 Thunder Chad gonna help you? Or do you want it? This is like a better roar.
Yeah, maybe.
And something that is easy to forget is that this affects 3 enemies, and there's only 5 slots.
That's true.
There's no more big boards where it's like, I can only affect these 3 heroes. 3 is now most of the lane.
That's a really good point.
So all of these effects which affect adjacent enemies, because they removed the neighbor wording, is very strong in my eyes. That always affects almost the entire lane. Almost.
Yeah, I don't know. We will see when we actually play the game, but to me, this looks a bit lacking compared to what I would expect from a 30 gold item. Maybe 25 gold, but from 30 gold, I would expect it to be something that, like, almost finishes the tower that turn, guaranteed.
This seems much better to me than 3 Clashuremes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh,
or 3 phase boots. Like, this has an effect. Sorry, giving you PTSD from having your hand locked for 6 turns.
Oh my god. Like, when they get like 2 of those, oh my god. That actually gave me flashbacks.
I'll send you the list where you run 3 of them and you copy it with Ogre and make more of them. Somebody played that list with the 6 mana lock card as well, and then you draw a card and they lock 8 for 8 turns, and you just leave. It's a lot more fun if you play it.
I just threw up in my mouth a little. So let's go with a little palate cleanser. which is the hero reworks. Finally, we get
yes.
some more of these. And once again, like, do you guys like look at Prellex and something's very familiar? Just saying, like, I know that I said something about Kana last time, but this looks very similar. So allow me to get into it. Prellex is still a blue hero, of course. 2 attack, 4 health. Her signature card is now still barracks, but they do something very different. For 3 mana, they are still an improvement, which gives the aura of giving your creeps 1 attack and 1 health, which may look shitty at first until you realize that this is not just melee creeps, but all creeps once again. And it is very synergetic with her passive reactive ability, Gather the Faithful. Deploy to the right instead of the left, and you get mega creeps instead of melee creeps. So this answers the question that we had a couple weeks ago, whether there would be more effects like the Necro Book, which gives you different kinds of creeps. And the mega creep thing is something I kind of called an episode or 2 ago, except I predicted it for Kana. So instead of melee creeps, you get a mega creep, which has 2 attack and 3 health. And if you put the barracks on top of that, it's almost at hero level of stats, really.
Can kill a Debbie.
It could kill a Debbie. And on deploy, Prellex actually has a different effect additional to that, which is redeploying your leftmost melee creep, which is immediately converted into a mega creep on deploying Prellex, which can be very powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what it does. It takes the wimpy little creep and it is resummoned as a mega creep.
Prellex is my favorite hero. I love to see this. We've had a couple discussions regarding Prellex and Kana and creep stacking or just stats improving, and that is effectively what happened. I'm a little surprised. I thought we were reaching a little bit with those discussions, but clearly not. Barracks looks insane, honestly. Yeah. I love Prellex, and people think she's trash tier, but I quite like her in draft.
She's very top tier on any waifu list.
This looks even stronger.
Kana is the patrician's choice, though. Let's be real.
Also the normie choice,
only basic bitches settle for Prellex because she has big hunkers, but the patrician likes the flat chest.
All right, listen. I know that flat chests are justice, okay? But I still stan Prellex, okay? Like, there's edgy, right? I get the appeal of suicidegirls.com, but I still love, like, the clean
The question
look.
is, do you want the traditional mommy GF? Or do you want the bipolar GF?
Are you calling Prellex the second version?
No, Prellex is the mommy GF. She's literally the mother of Kana.
Okay, and you're saying Kana is the one with all the anxiety issues and attitude.
Yeah, she's like the, what's that song? BPD and ecstasy. Na, 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 na.
Nice.
You put too much thought into this.
She's literally the EGF, the goth EGF, edgy and bipolar.
Okay.
There's a reason she leads a cult. Anyways.
I like both of them, and I am refraining from commenting on this subject. However, I am very fond of Prellex, but that does not necessarily reflect my taste in the real world.
I don't know. In the real world, I like both.
Fair.
IRL.
Fair.
So you were saying, Kiwi.
I was saying, I don't know, but I was saying anger has
totally derailed.
Completely. This is why we can't have nice things.
It is very important.
Okay,
right.
well, you answer your own question. What is your take on this?
Honestly, I'm loving every bit of this. Like, there's a reason why I thought of this as like a concept that I would love, because like not just changing the melee creeps, but what I find interesting is the simple deploy them to the right instead of the left. I had not considered that at all, even though it's like such an easy thing to add.
Yeah, what does it mean? How does that translate into gameplay?
Honestly, right now it's just to me all about how quirky that is. They do mention that this adds an advantage because now you get to basically pick stronger blockers for the left side, basically, to pair up with the opponent's creeps instead of the creeps always like matching up. Not always, but at least in the beginning. But with Prellex deploying on the first round, you get a mega creep right away on the other side. Like, that definitely has some advantages. It could hit the tower, or it would just become a very strong blocker right away.
Don't you want it on the left so it can eat the enemy creep?
That was my thought. Like, it's there's gonna be some utility with this, but it's not obvious what the utility is yet. Having it trade the creep every turn would be really strong, and so maybe this is some way of balancing it. But I think this also enables that you can put your heroes in those slots across from the creeps, and so you can protect your heroes in a way. Do you think it will be possible to, in the deployment phase, putting Prellex on a creep would destroy the creep, right? So it wouldn't redeploy it?
Yeah, not if you put it on that exact spot.
Because her deploy action is redeploy your leftmost creep, but by putting her in the lane on top of a creep, that would already kill the creep, right?
I believe so.
Okay, that's what I think. Yeah, I don't know. The fact that you move your creep means that their creep also gets to hit your tower for 1 and yours hits for 2, in theory, in the early turns. In the later turns, when you get, say you have a Farven in that lane, then this is going to look stupidly strong. Barracks looks amazing. Stacking, the fact that you can stack them as well is going to have huge impacts.
I think one thing though, I think the +1 health, at first I thought it was really strong, but like the health isn't like armor where it's gonna like replenish every round. Like the 1 health is just a one-time thing. They will only get like 1 more health stat. It's not like it will renew every round, if you know what I mean. Like,
no, but it's still, if you have 2 barracks in a lane, then your mega creep comes down and it's a 4/5.
Yeah.
That's killing a Debbie.
And it will still trigger on any new creep you put there. And it's not just the melee creeps, it's all creeps.
That's the really important part.
Yeah.
Like, think how thick a defenestrating ogre is going to be with barracks.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think Prellex looks a bit weaker than the other new heroes we've seen. I like it, but I think it looks a bit weaker.
I think she looks OP.
Really?
I'll say it right now. I'm going to play it.
This looks very strong to me in blue, and especially when you pair it up with green, which I assume to still, be all about buffing and creeps and so on.
Imagine Rumusk or Omni Knight.
Yeah.
And the equivalents of those in new.
Yeah. Or just some regeneration from Enchantress on top of those
or
barracks.
Armor from Enchantress.
Exactly. But since you think that the other heroes look so much stronger, Anger, how about you tell us about Axe?
Yes. So Axe is now a 3/2/5 with a new signature card that costs 2 mana, Culling Blade, which slays a damaged enemy hero with 3 or less health, and it's repeatable this round. And repeatable is a new mechanic that makes it so that within the same round, you can replay that card as much as you want. So if there's 2 damaged enemy heroes with 3 or less health, you can slay both of them if you have enough mana for it, with just 1 card. It will continuously bounce back to your hand. And then he has an active ability, which is still Berserker's Call, which is, or not still, but I mean, they added a signature card as his ability, basically.
Yeah.
2 round cooldown, cost 1 mana, battle all adjacent enemies. So it's the same as before.
But it's attached to Axe, so you won't have Bristleback's Berserker's Calling, which is just the best.
Yeah. But still, I find it kind of funny. Oh my god, Berserker's Call is so strong. How do we fix it? How about we reduce its mana cost to 1?
And Axe didn't have an ability before, right?
Exactly.
So I really like that.
Is this concerning for either of you? Does he look strong or weak?
I think he looks strong.
I think that Berserker's Call is definitely one of those abilities that they mentioned before, which is very strong, but you can play around it. And yeah, now it is tied to Axe alone, so you can't just cast it on anybody. I find the repeatable keyword to be extremely interesting. Like, and this is just so flavorful. It's wonderful. Finally, Axe is Axe, right?
I think so too. His stats kind of suck early. So Call isn't going to be killing units up until he has weapons or just like gear. Also, his health is not that great. Like, he's got 2 armor, but the 2 armor is only going to interact with one of the targets he calls, not with all 3.
Yeah.
And so he's a lot squishier than before. Somebody commented something about like him just being able to call, he dies and then you get to go call somewhere else every 2 turns sounds good, but I don't think that's that great. You still have lots of room to play around it. It's likely that he does die when he calls. However, if he is weaker, he can still has amazing synergy with Culling Blade if he isn't dead. If you just put a cloak on him, he can call and then Culling Blade each target. The stipulation of it being a damaged hero is, I think, partially a balance thing, so you're not just, killing Debbie on round 1 for free.
Yeah.
So say you have other red heroes alive, or just say you have red heroes. This means that you'll be able to Culling Blade in multiple lanes per round, right? Because the whole board is shared mana. Is that correct? Like when it says repeatable this round, that's going to be across lanes, won't it?
Yeah, that's true.
You'll probably have the card until the end of the full round.
Yeah, and as long as you have red heroes in those other lanes, it should be repeatable there. I didn't consider that at all.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit weak otherwise, but
I
also
guess.
it sounds a little bit strong that way. Pairing him with black to make him really strong sounds cool. He's not going to be an auto-include in decks that have red. He'll be there for a reason, or there's lots of different ways to build around with him.
Yeah.
It's also nice. It's kind of like X needs some time in the jungle to get stronger before he can be the monster that he is. And also the Berserker's call into multiple Culling Blade synergy is very Dota-esque.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the effect for that, even though it's probably not going to be there in the beta, but I really just want that iconic sound of the Culling Blade. Shing. All right. Just one little detail is that Culling Blade is only concerned with health, not armor. So even if someone has like super buffed armor or something, as long as they have 3 health or below, you just go right through that armor and it's an insta-kill.
Like a Debbie.
For example. Like Axe is another example of the card being very synergetic with his own body and reactive ability, but also very usable across the whole board. Very interesting that way. Kiwi, would you like to talk about the Ogre Magi?
I sure would. Ogre's got the blue Rarity color, first one we've seen, so we know there's at least 4 different stages of unlocking. Or 3, I guess. Ogre's been changed to a 2/4 with 2 armor. A little bit odd seeing armor on a blue hero. However, both in Underlords and in Dota, Ogre is very tanky among spellcasters and unique in that way, so I don't expect that we'll see armor on other blue heroes. However, it's possible that they just use armor across the board on everybody to help for balance. Multicast has been changed to the first blue spell or enchantment you cast from this lane can be repeated this round, pending you have mana. 2-round cooldown. I really like this for many reasons. First of all, you can't get lucky multicasting like a bolt and cast it the next turn.
Oh my god.
You can't get lucky and multicast D-Portal on turn 4. You can use it and depend on it. So enchantments are just a different type of spell that has lasting effects. Ignite has been changed to an enchantment. It is no longer an improvement.
Yeah.
So improvements are not multicastable, of course. So you can't multicast Barracks. Ignite has been changed to 4 mana, Enchant Caster. Round start, deal 1 piercing damage to each enemy. I assume that's going to be in the lane. I mean, that's definitely going to be in the lane. 1 damage is a lot more now than it was before. This kills a creep. It's also in the whole lane. 4 mana is more expensive, but the fact that this is now an enchant spell means that on mana 8, you could cast it twice. Or if you had a Sanctum, you could cast it twice.
Yeah, and also now that Ignite is being bound to a hero instead of a lane, you can actually move around with that hero as well.
For sure. So that is both a strength and a weakness. For one, you can't cast it cross lane and upkeep kill on that specific turn.
Yeah.
But being able to move your strong improvement, well, not improvement now, but your strong effect means that people can't just dodge it, and so they're gonna have to play all 3 lanes a little bit more, which is good. I like that. The wording on multicast can be improved. I hope they improve it, because they say repeated, but it's not repeated. It's only once. You may recast it, and it only lasts until the end of round. So it's also, Runeterra uses fleeting, but they could specify it better.
Because they're saying that multicast doesn't change anything about the spell that you want to repeat.
I think what they're saying is that you like, it doesn't change the spell. So if you use a blue spell that doesn't have repeat on it and you have it with Ogre, it doesn't change it so that card gets repeat. You just get one more version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
that's at least how I read it.
You're right. No, yeah, you're definitely right. So the wording does need to be improved.
So it just protects against that degenerate nonsense. Any other comments about Ogre?
I think it looks really cool. I love it.
I like it both from a play perspective and from a play against perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Still looks very strong. Maybe stronger, but also 4 mana is a lot of mana, especially considering that everything's been scaled down to be cheaper. Not everything, but all the cheap stuff has been scaled down to be cheaper.
And you only have 1 mana pool.
But you do reach 4 mana even earlier than before. Rounds will most likely be much faster than they were before.
The fact that you can multicast it later in the game is going to be strong as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be TOT level of strong, but that's still pretty strong.
Yeah. And this covers the second hero that had a coin toss mechanic and now has a much more predictable reactive ability.
Right, so it's only Tide that people still hate.
Yeah.
In a way, it's almost a shame that Ogre Magi of all heroes has had his randomness removed, but like, that's just scorched earth at this point, right? We don't want to touch that kind of randomness again. People have too many bad memories, myself included. Like,
I was honestly surprised when Ogre didn't have armor in the initial artifact.
Right.
Yeah, and that it wasn't tanky.
Like, even though blue heroes don't have armor, I would have expected it on Ogre. It still feels very much like he held his character, you know? It still feels like the same hero, just been tweaked.
Yeah. I think the difficult act that Valve have to accomplish with every hero and item rework is keeping their identity intact while still somehow altering them so the community gets exactly what they wanted. Although that is also very dangerous as well. Like, you don't want to always listen to the community. Like, is there anything about the changes made so far to Artifact 2.0 that you guys are worried about at all? I'm just trying to, like, you know, take off our rose-tinted glasses for just a moment, perhaps. Like, I'm very hopeful about this new version of Artifact, I am. But I'm just trying to maybe see, because this is a very different game. The game that we are seeing take form here is very different, especially just the identity of the lanes and so on. So are there any worries that you have at all?
I'm still a little concerned about offlane versus, like, Radiant versus Dire positioning sort of thing. For me, personally, I have a very hard time viewing things without having all of the information. And so maybe I sound extremely positive about everything, and I am, but I'm sure I will have criticisms when I can see it in its entirety.
Yeah.
And currently I don't have any because I can't see all of it and how the pieces interact with each other.
I love how they have done a lot of changes, but it doesn't really feel that different. Like, it feels like they somehow have managed to keep the essence of the game, even though they've changed so much so drastically.
Yeah.
And I really like that. They've kept the soul. Yeah.
I've been very impressed with that.
Yeah, because that's difficult.
When they said they're going to go back to the drawing board, I did not think it would be possible for them to keep the essence of the game while changing these mechanics that I thought were so integral. You said it's a completely different game, but it doesn't feel like a completely different game to me.
Yeah.
It just feels like better Artifact that is better for everybody.
Which was the point, right?
Precisely. My favorite part of this blog post was, without contention, the art. It's the same art as last week, except the Greevil has, just had to have a little taste of Mjolnir.
Yeah, or the Skull Basher, exactly. It's, by the way, this art actually made me think about this for just a little bit. Like, because this art is like a follow-up to last week's art, did somebody really draw this within the last week?
Definitely.
Or was this
Yeah.
prepared the whole time?
It's possible they just had a whole bunch of random art prepared, like, or like, oh, it's Christmas break, here, draw us 20 art things related to these specific categories.
I mean,
see
if you
it being
really
both
zoom in
ways.
on the coins and the swords in the background, like it's not that like it's a great painting, but I think it could easily be done in a week. Like I think they're making these weekly as they go.
Perhaps. It's just, thematically speaking, it seems like such a fitting progression from the art of last week. Because now
Yeah.
they have to kind of clean up their blunder, so to say. Like, maybe I'm just seeing too much in this art,
no,
but...
I agree with you. What you're saying is that they probably had to make it because when they made the shop post, they weren't planning for it to be a 2-part shop post.
Mm,
The 2-part shop post was in response to the community's questions.
right.
And for them to have matching art means they likely drew it in this week as well.
Right.
Yeah.
With the spirit of small blunders in mind. Any more thoughts as we put our foot out the door?
Not for
Kana
me.
is better than Prellex.
Okay, you know what? Where can people find your mad woman's ramblings? Where can
On
they find
YouTube?
it if they follow you?
I mean, okay, if you want the really crazy rambling, you should probably
Oh,
visit
boy.
my Twitter.
Where's that?
At Twitter/Angermania with a P at the end. And YouTube, it's Angermania without a P at the end.
That's
Yep.
sufficiently confusing. Kiwi, do you have more on-brand links for us?
I'm just on Twitch at Kiwi_streaming. And
Very
there's
descriptive.
been some more artifact tournaments and stuff popping up, so I've been streaming every single one of them, and will continue to.
There's been so many. Like, there's the B3H, which, like, they just wrapped up season 1 last week, correct?
Yeah, I got second.
Yeah. I got to
Very-
bait!
Oh, yes, you did. I was so proud of you. Anger
Amazing.
upset the potential winner.
The amount of
And
skill
then the-
concentrated in this podcast.
It's true.
The Sneaky Panda tournament the other day.
Yeah, the
I
Pandemonium.
tried casting. And okay, I realized that I'm not fit for the job as a caster. I don't have the patience for it.
Oh, yeah?
See, I should have just committed to casting because I lost first round.
Oh yeah.
It would have been much more
No, but
fulfilling to have casted
just-
the whole way.
I got so much respect for casters. Like, how do you constantly keep a flow going of talking? Not just talking about what's happening, but what could possibly be happening.
Yeah.
Like,
We can cast
just-
together sometime. I'll show you. I love
I
casting.
don't think you want to cast with me because I'm focusing enough processing like what's happening right now, let alone what's gonna happen in the future
Yeah,
for
but
2 people. It's
if
even
you-
difficult for just me, but then the opponent as well.
If you cast with me, I'll take care of that part and you can just be the slack.
Yeah. You just be the ad-lib caster.
That was the problem. If you were casting with Rashid, then you just had 2 slacks and no analyst. Yeah. And also Rashid had a tournament last
Yeah.
week as well.
Oh yeah, I missed that one. How did it end?
I went undefeated in the Swiss with green. Felt really good.
Damn.
And then I got top 4. And two people that had never done well in events were the top 2, and they were both 2 color decks. And the top list was an econ blue-black list, which is unheard of doing well in tournaments because it
Oh.
auto loses to red. Except he beat red with it, and it was a
Damn.
Brazilian that one. So yeah, that was pretty exciting too, all around.
Very nice. But you took that green deck all the way.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't take it all the way, but I played it the whole way.
Right.
Kiwi took it all the way or to second place with the Mono Green and B3H as well.
I played ramp in that, but I got.
Oh, in the top. Oh yeah, right.
But the best of ones, I got first in the best of ones as well with green.
Oh yeah, you got first. Yeah.
Queen of
Somebody's
green.
gotta play green, you know. But we've got promise for creep decks here
Exactly.
Yeah.
with Prellex. I'm excited.
Looking forward to that. I still got stuff brewing. Up until then, you can check me out on Twitter at Cymen90. But Kiwi, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and as well, Rammy is on Twitter and Twitch at megaRammy, RAMMY.
That is our producer, megaRammy, editing all of this for your eyes and ears. So check out this podcast on our website, secretshop.gg. Check us out on Twitter. You'll find all the links on our website, as well as the video version of this podcast on YouTube, so you can see our faces and our expressions as we talk to you.
Wait, if you add the from mega to Rammy and remove the R, it becomes Mommy. She's the podcast mommy. megaRammy. Mommy.
Very astute of you. Yes. The podcast mommy, you can text her on Twitter and tell her who is better, Kana or Prellex. You can also mail us that at mail@secretshop.gg.
See you all next Monday.
See you then.
Peace.
Thank you. Thank you for your business. Come again!